I welcome everyone. I welcome every one of you in today's Society for Text Analysis and Research discussion on the recent rate changes, its implications, various impacts in terms of the new rates, when to apply, when not to apply, and also in terms of what implications it hold for the credit notes and other transactions which are pertaining to the old rates. So before we start, I will just run you through the very basics of the rate changes in a very quick manner. Uh, so, friends, the big change, as already announced by Honorable Prime Minister, these are next generation GST reforms, which are strategic, principled, citizen-centric evolution of a landmark tax framework, and which will enhance the quality of life of every last citizen. Friends, post the introduction of GST, so we can see this is one of the biggest changes which has ever come. If you remember, or if you look back, the 1991 reform, which was opening up of the Indian economy, was followed by this one big change which came in form of GST. And its subset, another big change is in terms of reducing the rates to a great extent. I understand that there is a huge respite which will come to a lot of industries, but yes, there will be also a lot of questions, a lot of precautions which everyone need to sit on. See, the major impacts in services have come in terms of the hotel accommodation, which are less than or equal to 7,500. The rate has been reduced to 5%, but with the condition that no input tax credit will be available. Health insurance and life insurance have been exempted. Transportation across board, very important change. Transportation across board, when it is provided with fuel and operator. Earlier it was at 12% with ITC. Now it has been increased to 18% from 12% rate. 5% rate remains same. I'll discuss this in detail. And the personal healthcare, very sensitive sector, though we don't see it very prominently, but take my words, it is impacting. Everybody do have this one client in their client list. So be very careful with the personal healthcare. Without ITC, the rate has been reduced to 5%. Now, what is the date of rate change? It is 22nd of September 2025. Supply and invoicing can be in different periods. Many people are facing the issue that I am providing services till 20th, 21st, or continuing services, but I will be raising invoice later or has already done, and there are pending debtors also. What will be the rate? So that is also one discussion which we will like to have on the next slide. Credit note in terms of what rate will be applicable for any debit or credit note, which is for any invoice which is relating to period prior to 22nd of September. Then exemption or no ITC condition, this is very important to understand. And then you have ongoing contracts. There are implications in the sense you might have to renegotiate them. For the very simple reason, there may be tax inclusive contracts, more particularly with the government sector. And very surprisingly, the government has not come out with some kind of relaxation in those contracts where even the rates have increased. So rates have decreased. What will be the implication? Again, we have to look into. And where the rates have increased, that is also something very sensitive you need to look in. Last but not the least, see, if you look into the spirit of the government is very clear. We want to make the rate decrease, reach the last citizen of the country. Every citizen should get the benefit. So my humble view, my humble request, if you are benefited by any rate decrease, please pass it on. Don't enrich yourself with the tax benefits which government has given, because this is for the last mile and not for the supplier. Now, first thing first, what will be the rate which will be applicable on various kinds of services where there is an invoice or payment, or for that matter, the services have been provided. See, this has been very clearly provided in Section 14 of the CGST Act. that in case the goods or services have been supplied before the change in rate of tax, but the invoice for the same has been issued after the change of the rate, then the time of supply shall be the date of liability to pay tax on such supply, which will be earlier of. Number one, when the payment is received after the rate change, then time of supply shall be the receipt of payment or the date of invoice, whichever is earlier. But in case the payment has been received prior, then in that particular case, the time of supply shall be the date of receipt of payment. Now, let me put it very simply. I'll take a very simple example. The person has come to a hotel. He has stayed in that particular hotel on 21st and he is to check out on 22nd. The services are provided on 21st. He has to check out on 22nd. He has made a payment already on 21st, which is in advance, and the invoice will be generated after he will be checking out, that is on 22nd. So the rate which will be applicable will be the rate which is on 21st. So please do keep this in mind because you have a service which has been provided on 21st. Now, another instance, a chartered accountant has completed the audit till 20th of September. He has already signed the financials of the company after the audit. And he has not raised any invoice. He has not issued any or received any payment. He has not issued any invoice. Now, in this particular case, these services has been provided up to or prior to 22nd of September. But invoicing and your payments both are pending. So you will be raising the invoice later. And in that particular case, either of the earlier, which is the date of receipt of payment or the date of issuance of invoice, whichever will be earlier, will be the date when this particular, the new rate will be applicable. So even though the entire services were provided in the old rate regime, the rate which will be applicable will be the new rate. I hope I'm very, very clear with this, friends. Also, please keep in mind the vice versa situation. Supplier has supplied the services and he has also received the advance. So let us say he has received 80% advance for provision of a construction contract, which is a works contract services. In those particular things, when you have received the payment earlier to the extent of 80% and you have also supplied the services prior to 22nd, in that particular case, your rate applicable on 80% will be the old rate. And on the 20%, because you have neither received the payment nor you have issued the invoice, will be the new rate. So please do keep this point in mind. The continuing contract. So suppose there is a continuous supply of service, there is a retainership agreement. Entire month, the services are provided for the month of September, but no invoice is issued. The invoice is issued on 1st of October, which is the subsequent month. In that particular case, since payment and invoice is in the subsequent month, you will not prorate the services. Please do not commit an error. You will prorate the tax rate, that we apply the tax rate for 1st to 21st as the old rate and 22nd to later as the new rate. Even though the new rate is lower, the assessee is not bound by the change or fall of rate. He will be bound by the time of supply. When exactly has the time of supply being started, being established as per section 14. Also, please keep in mind the vice versa situation. Rental was the invoice was issued on 1st of September for the month of September. Entire invoice was issued on the first date. It's a case of continuous supply of services when the milestones are defined for receiving the payment and when it is the first day of the start of the month. In case of continuous supply of service, the date which is your milestone date will be the date when the invoice should have been issued. In such cases, friends, the rate which is applicable on that particular date will be the rate applicable on services. So I have discussed certain examples with you. We will take up questions on this. Give me some time. Let me run through the entire change and then we will speak on this. Debit note and credit notes. Don't commit an error to apply the new rates in respect of invoices which are issued in the prior period. because debit notes and credit notes are no new supply. Section 14 is not applicable on them. Section 14 is applicable only in the cases when there is a supply. Credit notes and debit notes are basically changes in the value, which is applied to section 15, read with section 34. So when there is a change of value to a supply which has already been done, it is only the variation in value, the rate which was applicable on the supply itself shall be the rate which will be applicable to that particular credit note or debit note. So let me give you an example. There was a person, the service provider, let's say GG Services Private Limited. I've given this example, supplied services of passenger transportation of 20th of September 2025 for rupees 10,000 plus 12% GST. In discussion with the client, since there was a difference in distance traveled, the service provider agreed to issue a credit note of 1,500. The rate of credit note shall be the old rate of 12% and not the new rate of 18%. So please don't be afraid that since the rate has increased, the implications will be as per the new rate. No, sir. More particularly in goods, I'm telling you, all the volume discounts, everybody will be facing a problem where there will be a volume discount credit note issued after the year end. Why I'm saying so? People do not put it vis-a-vis the invoice. So they will issue a single credit note, which is allowed. You know, the big amendment which came earlier, as early as 2021. The consolidated credit note was allowed. And in that particular case, one single credit note was allowed to be issued against multiple invoices. Now, some invoices pertain to period prior to 22nd of September and some invoices pertain to period post 22nd September. But the volume discount credit note will be issued, let's say, in the month of April 2026. Now, in this particular case, the assessee will be issuing one credit note. I would suggest he should issue two credit notes because he don't have a choice. For period prior to 22nd of September, he should apply the old rate. And for period post 22nd September, he should apply the new rate for that particular debit note or credit note. There are industries where variation go on a day basis. So suppose I'm speaking about cement, I'm speaking about the metal, I'm speaking about the PP. What happens is you buy something from me on 21st, but I will give you a debit or credit note after 1 or 2 days. So on 23rd, I'm issuing you the debit or credit note. Friends, very simple. The rate which will be applicable in this particular case will be the rate of the original supply date. If you have issued that particular invoice, but yes, if someone has supplied on 21st, now mind my words, if someone has supplied on 21st, but invoice is issued on 22nd, payment is received later, my dear friend, the new rate will be applicable. And in that particular case, credit note or debit note, very simply, the rate on the invoice shall be the rate applicable on the credit note or debit note. So I hope this one issue is very, very clear. Be very, very careful while issuing your debit notes or credit notes this season. Now, in the construction sector, not many rate changes are there. A very specific one sector has been touched, which is works contract involving predominantly the earthwork. Earthwork such as excavations, removing of excavated stuff, fabrication, transporting, providing support, rock bolting, reinforcement. The basically primarily the preliminary work. Those particular work when there is 75% of the work constitute the earthwork. So suppose I am given a work of excavation and foundation. Excavation and foundation. 1 second. My humble apologies. When you have been given a work, let us say, of excavation and also including the foundation, but excavation amount constitute or the work constitutes more than 75% of the work, then you are into a category where which says works contract involving predominantly the earthwork. And when it is provided to central government, state government, union territory, local authority, earlier the rate was 12%. Now this has been increased to 18%. And any subcontractor which is providing such services to the main contractor, will have the rate has also been increased from 12% to 18%. Apart from that, construction sector remains same, including your construction of flats and everything. Just do keep in mind, and this is very specific for the central government, state government, UT and local authority, the services provided to them. The private sector is not impacted with this. Hotel sector, we all understand this is now a big change, that there is for every room night which is equal to or less than 7,500 per unit, the rate has been reduced from 12 to 5, but with the condition that there will not be a input tax credit which will be available. Now, this is one big change. There is no option to pay 18%. The explanation has been amended, whereby it has been made very, very clear that you don't have a choice not to opt for this rate. You cannot continue pay 18% and take ITC. No, sir. If the room rent is below 7,501 rupee, meaning up to 7,500 rupees, you have to pay taxes at the rate of 5%. No input tax credit will be available to you. So I am a hotel where there are 40 rooms which are below 7,500 and there are 60 rooms which are above 7,500. And I have common input tax credit. One-to-one input tax credit is not possible because there are expenses of housekeeping, AMC, HVAC, the waiter, the staff, the cleaning, everything is there. So in those particular cases, every month, whatever input tax credit will be there, that will be prorated, not in the number of rooms. It will be prorated in terms of the value of services provided. So suppose while the rooms were 40, 60, but the revenue total which is coming out from the total of the two rooms is in the ratio of 20:80. So less than 75%, 20%, and more than 7,500, it is 80%. So my ITC of 20% will be disallowed. So please do keep this in mind that this is a monthly exercise to be done now. In case of hotels, the rate is reduced to 5%. Hotel accommodation where it is more than 7,500, there is no change. In terms of specified premises definition also, there is no change. So in terms of the restaurants which are there where one single unit, कोई भी एक unit 7,500 rupees से ऊपर है, that particular restaurant remains in that specified premises, need to charge tax at 18%, ITC will be available. So 5% will only be impacting not the rate of the restaurant, but prorated ITC will have a plugging in these particular cases. The cost of such hotels, such restaurants in these specified premises, banquet halls, those things will go up because now ITC is becoming a cost. Air transportation, transport of passenger by air. Earlier, again, it was 12%. Now it has been increased to 18%. Very important, the transportation. When I started the discussion, मैंने कहा था transportation के ऊपर जो rate है वो increase कर दिया गया है. And this is across board. मतलब passenger transportation में भी और goods transportation में भी. Earlier the rate was 12% for any motor vehicle which is designed to carry passenger, where cost of fuel is included in the consideration. So earlier the rate was 12% with ITC. Now this has been increased to 18% with ITC. Now friends, see the transportation sector, how it will be impacted. Number one, the motor vehicle GST has come down. The good part is the cess has gone, which was not available against your normal services which are you're providing, which is under taxable under GST. उनमें cess नहीं था. Now transportation sector, again you have to be categorical in two terms. अगर आप सिर्फ गाड़ी दे रहे हैं किराए पे, you are not giving an operator, आप ड्राइवर नहीं दे रहे हैं, आप फ्यूल नहीं दे रहे हैं. In that particular case, friends, the rate was not 12% or 18%. अगर आपने सिर्फ गाड़ी किराए पर दी है, the rate is same as the rate which is applicable on that particular vehicle. Now please understand the scenario. मेरे पास let us say एक let's take a very simple example, which is very one of the prominent cars to be given on rent. Let us say a Desire. So a Desire, a person has purchased and given on rent. He is not running a transportation business. Simple, he has given that particular car on rent. So there are two categories which come into this particular sector. Number one, when you are simply renting a car. Number two, when there is a self-drive car which is available in the market. The company does not give anything, it gives you the vehicle only, and the person will take the vehicle, drive across, and give back it to the company and pay the rental according to the distance, according to the time, according to maybe any other criteria which the company follows. In that particular case, the rate applicable will not be 18%. It will be the rate which will be applicable on that particular vehicle. Maybe the rate on that vehicle is 18% as per the amendment which has come up in terms of the rates. But please do keep in mind, it can be 18% or it can be 40%. So the rate which is applicable on that vehicle will be applicable in case of renting of that particular vehicle when it is without a driver. But in case you are giving it with chauffeur, with driver, in that particular case, whatever car it is, the rate is 40% on applicable on that car, or it is 18%. Your supply of service rate will be 18%. Now you are into a passenger transport service business, not renting of vehicle business. So ये distinction one has to keep in mind. Renting of vehicle के ऊपर, I have seen that many people have in the earlier regime also they have applied the lower rate. The second impact on this is पहले उन गाड़ियों पे सेस था. So let's say 28 plus 22. So जो rate of सेस था वो output पे भी लग रहा था अगर आप renting of vehicle कर रहे हैं. Because cess also had a similar entry as that of the GST rates, normal GST rate. So section 9 and section notification number 1 under cess also had that entry. Now with this particular change, when cess is not applicable, the earlier cess will become a cost for that particular operator. It will not be. Plus, he will be required to charge 40% of tax. I'm talking about a big segment car, let's say a Mercedes or whatever. Now, in that particular case, जो आपने tax rate 40% लिया और आपको cess आपका अब available नहीं है as credit, दोनों ही चीजें, it becomes a cost. Why it becomes a cost? The recipient of such renting of vehicle will not be having the input tax credit of such particular GST charge because there is no change in section 17 subsection 5 clause A. So motor vehicle का credit नहीं available है उसको जो छोटे less than 13 passenger transport vehicle है, that credit is not available. So one thing, 28 to 40 the rate of GST has increased. Number two, the cess credit is not available, that also becomes a cost. So factoring both, when you are speaking to one of your clients जिनका आप services का आगे you are suggesting, these contracts need to go into a renegotiation with the customers. So just look into these particular contracts. Again, sir, in the category of rail transportation, road transportation, pipeline, when you are talking about goods, the rate has increased from 12% to 18%. Same conditions. आपके पहले 12% का रेट था with ITC, अब 18% with ITC, 5% without ITC, the rate is not changed. So, my dear friends, keep this in mind when you're talking about GTA. If you are paying taxes under RCM, your rate remains 5% without ITC. That change is not there. Only the 18%, 12 to 18%, that rate has been increased. So reverse charge के rate में कोई फर्क नहीं है. Without ITC के case में कोई फर्क नहीं है. It is with ITC which the rates have been changed. Multimodal, this is a very interesting sector, often ignored by the transporters. जो एक से ज़्यादा transport use करते हैं, modes of transport for transportation. So I'll give you a very simple example that goods have traveled from air, from Delhi till Nagpur, and in Nagpur they have been transported using a truck. Now there are two modes. One single consideration is charged by the transporter for the entire journey of goods or transport of goods from Delhi to Nagpur at the doorstep. It is not courier services. If it is courier services, a single rate of 18% is applicable. But if it is not courier services, when you are specifically booking a transport involving two modes, and most popular is the railways and the roadways together. So by rail, goods will go to Visakhapatnam, and from that particular place, the goods will be taken by the transporter from the rail wagon and then put into a truck and send it to the factory. This is the most common. Earlier, the rate was 12%. Now, the new rate is 5% without ITC. In all cases, jahan pe air transport is not one of the modes. If air transport is one of the modes, the rate is 18% with ITC. So please do keep this in mind. It is very, very important for any person who is involving two modes of transportation, two or more modes of transportation. Goods transport agencies definition has been amended to exclude, everything remains same. It means a person who provides services in relation to transport of goods by road and issues a consignment note. That one, condition remains same. But having said so, the exclusion, which is now incorporated in this particular definition, any services through e-commerce operator when he is providing a local delivery. So if you are using an e-commerce operator for interstate delivery, that particular restriction is not there. But if you are providing any GTA services which is for local delivery and through e-commerce operator or by e-commerce operator, then there is an exclusion. He will not be called a GTA. So I'll not name the companies, but yes, you can understand there is a spurt in the companies which will take a very quick delivery, from you. Okay, I need to deliver something to Gurgaon or for that matter, to Lajpat Nagar from Pitampura. The person will come, he will be on a bike, take up the goods, he will on the app. Now, where is the consignment note? Consignment note is on the app. So the app will acknowledge that they have taken the goods, they will deliver the goods, take their money, and it is not a courier service. It is not a courier service because there is a delivery which has been engaged by taking the goods, issuing a consignment note, and not akin to a courier service mechanism. So this is a one-to-one specialized quick delivery services which were provided. Now this has been excluded from the definition of GTA. You were earlier required. Now, this is very surprising. Many people will be surprised to see. Earlier, you were supposed to pay GST under reverse charge on these particular services. Now, since they have been excluded, RCM will not be applicable. The e-commerce operator has now been burdened. I'm using a very correct word, burdened or made liable to pay taxes on these particular the local deliveries which are provided through e-commerce operator. Now, multimodal transporter has also been redefined. He has been redefined to mean a person who enters into a contract under which he undertakes to perform multimodal transportation against freight. I've already explained this, and act as a principal and not as an agent either of the consignor or the consignee or the carrier participating in the multimodal transportation, and who assumes responsibility for performance of said contract. Very important, they are trying to differentiate between an intermediary and the person providing the transportation services. So if only a person is booking a multimodal transporter, he is an intermediary. Again, you will have to travel back to understand this particular difference of principal versus intermediary service provider. Today is not a good time to go into this, but yes, we will definitely take up intermediary again once more, because intermediary is also undergoing a big change. We'll take up at some app time. Let's focus on the rate change today. Renting of motor vehicle, already transportation I have explained, but renting of motor vehicle where fuel is included in the consideration for charge from the recipient, the new rate is 18%. Transportation, आंख बंद करके याद कर लीजिए, सब जगह पे across board जहां भी ITC है, rate has been increased. चाहे goods हैं चाहे passenger है, 18% पे the rate has now been updated. Earlier the rate was 12%. Without ITC, now the rate is 5%. Earlier also it was 5%. So for goods and passenger, when fuel is included or chauffeur is included, with operator or with fuel, the rate is 18%. When both of them are absent, the rate applicable on that particular vehicle, because it's a mere renting of vehicle. Postal service, courier service, delivery service 18%. पहले भी 18 था, अब भी 18 है, कोई चेंज नहीं है. क्यों ये एंट्री को इंकॉर्पोरेट किया गया? बिकॉज now this has been fragmented. Earlier it was postal and courier services. Now, local delivery services by or through a e-commerce operator, the rate is now specified very categorically, because earlier there was a confusion that they qualify as GTA. Now government has made it very clear. अगर आप e-commerce operator के through local deliveries कर रहे हैं, then it will not be under 5%, it will be under 18%. And again, RCM will not be applicable on this. Insurance, everybody is looking forward. Health and life insurance has now been reduced to 0%. Now, the problem is now your ITC has become your cost, which was earlier you were recovering from the customer, and maximum of your output you were paying using ITC. So if someone is of the view that earlier I was paying a premium of, let's say, 1 lakh rupees plus the reduced rate in case of this uh, insurance, let's say life insurance, 5%, let's say. So I was paying 1 lakh 5,000. Now I will be paying 1 lakh. No, sir. There will not be an absolute decrease because ITC has become a cost for these companies. So there will be some 1 lakh 2,000, 3,000, or maybe 4,000. One has to shelve. Let's wait for the new rates which will come up. But yes, looking into the pressure, the government, the perception of the consumer is that I get a direct benefit of the output taxes which have been reduced. There will be some impacts, some absorptions of input tax credit in the increase of cost, which is to be provided to the customer. So customer को पूरा benefit उन cases में नहीं मिल पाएगा जहां पर मैं दो चीजें बोल रहा हूँ, 0% exemption कर दिया गया है रेट का, या 5% रेट कर दिया गया है, which is with provision without ITC. So जहां भी ITC plug हुआ है वहां पे cost supplier की in terms of addition of input tax credit increase हो गई है, enhance हो गई है. So that cost will increase the supplying price even if he keeps his profit same. Then in that particular case, the cost will increase, the prices will increase, and then there will be a 5% or 0% which will be applied. So do keep these things in mind. Yes, a tough proposition, tough time for many of these suppliers who have gone into exemption in the middle of the year. But yes, at the end of the day, the idea is that consumer should be benefited. Job work, lot of things have gone down, to 5%. Earlier also many things were at 5%. So government is trying to keep all the important job works also at 5%. The two important changes are, number one, जो fruits और vegetables की प्री कंडीशनिंग, प्री कूलिंग, राइपनिंग, वैक्सिंग, रिटेल पैकिंग जो सर्विसेज थी, जिसमें उसका एसेंशियल कैरेक्टर चेंज नहीं हो रहा था, the rate has been increased to 18%. And in case of, don't confuse this with loading, unloading, packing, storage and warehousing of agricultural produce, जहां पर रेट अभी भी nil है. So ये एक बेसिकली जो सेग्रीगेशन ऑफ फ्रूट्स हैं और वेजिटेबल्स हैं, जिनके अंदर हाई क्वालिटी, लो क्वालिटी फ्रूट्स और वेजिटेबल्स को अलग किया गया या वैक्सिंग करी गई उनकी, दोज आर सर्विसेज व्हिच हैव बीन इंक्रीज्ड. द नॉर्मल लोडिंग, अनलोडिंग, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन, वेयर हाउसिंग, उन सर्विसेज को एग्रीकल्चरल प्रोड्यूस के केस में नहीं छेड़ा गया. In case of hide, skins, leather, the rate has been decreased from 12 to 5. Again, which is in relation to residue. Job work in relation to residues and waste from food industry, the rate has been decreased from 12% to 5%. पुराने सारे रेट सेम है. मैंने ये पीपीटी ऑलरेडी शेयर करी है, मैं उन पे फोकस नहीं कर रहा. आई एम फोकसिंग ऑन द रेट चेंजेस. प्रिंटिंग के केस में द टैक्स रेट हैज गॉन अप फ्रॉम 12% to 18%. Please do keep in mind, but this is not applicable in case of the newspaper printing, which still remains at 5%. In case of books, the rate remains 5%. In case of journals and periodical, the printing rate remains 5%. So it is all other printing, you're going for pamphlets, you're going for other things, the rate is increased from 12% to 18%. Books, journal, periodical, newspaper, rate remains 5% in the job work. Now, IPL, casinos, race club, the rate has increased to 28% to 40%. Even including the betting amount, the dispute is still on. but the rate has now been enhanced from 28 to 40%. And similarly, the race clubs, the rate has been increased from 28 to 40. So sin goods, parallelly, there are sin services, and the rates have been increased in case of both. So if you're talking about luxury cars and other certain segments, rate increase. But when we are talking about the admission exhibition services of cinematographic film, where the price is where the price of the ticket is less than 100 or up to 100, the new rate is reduced 5%. So benefit has been given in case of cinematographic the movie tickets, but the movie ticket should be less than 101 rupee up to 100 rupees. I understand many of you who are looking in metros or even tier 2 might be saying what is there, but yes, tier 3 friends believe this rate is still a very prominent rate. Very important category, beauty and physical well-being services, which were earlier taxable at 18%, now reduced to 5% without ITC. Now, what is beauty and physical well-being? Hairdressing, barber services, cosmetic treatment, which is given by many of the cosmetic and plastic surgeons. The rate is now reduced to 5%, but no ITC. Physical well-being services, including health club, gyms, fitness center. Very surprisingly, I'll speak out one more thing. Personal hygiene, body care, treatment with ultraviolet rays or infrared. People take all these kinds of services from many of the clinics or the therapy centers. All of them have now been reduced from 8 to 5. I Please also note that this will include the tattoo and the parlor and the body piercing studio services also. Now, these services have been defined in the SAC, explanatory note of SAC, which has been provided by the government. So, big change. A lot of people, a lot of these service providers are impacted. These are not visible, as I said in the beginning of the session, but yes, they are into a day-to-day life of almost everyone. So their rate is reduced from 18 to 5, but with the condition of without ITC. I am not very sure while it might lead to an increase or decrease, but yes, there will be a lot of things which will go into this particular industry by reworking. The old saloons, old gyms, while they are directly benefited, the benefit should pass to the customer. Now, sir, what will happen? There is an annual membership fee which you have taken for a gym, which is at the beginning of the year, which was taken at 18%. Now the rate is reduced to 5%. What will happen to that, sir? While that particular 18% service which you have given, there will not be a prorated decrease. You cannot issue a credit note. Please do keep this in mind. Nobody will issue a credit note for prorated decrease of tax because your time of supply was on the first day when you issued a EMC. In that particular case, sorry, AMC, not AMC, but the annual membership. Your tax rate remains same entire year, but after September 22nd, the ITC prorated will be disallowed. So any ITC which is relating to these services provided or received after 22nd or 21st of September, from 22nd September, the ITC will be disallowed. So one may argue, Gaurav, we have already charged at 18%, prorated ITC should be available. Sir, it will not be available on a monthly basis. So from October, November, December, January, February, March, ITC totally disallowed. But when you will go to rework the formula as provided in the rule at the year end, then your prorated benefit for those 18% services will automatically come into your GST credit ledger. So that benefit will come to you. But the only problem is, now what is the problem? आपने 5% का रेट आपने नवंबर से लगाना शुरू, अक्टूबर से आपका पूरा लगना शुरू हो गया आफ्टर 22 सितंबर, आपका सारा आईटीसी डिसअलाउ हो रहा है. आपने ईयर एंड पर अपना आईटीसी रिवर्क भी कर दिया, मीनिंग देयर बाय यू हैव नाउ मेड योर आईटीसी बैक इनटू क्रेडिट लेजर. आप उसको क्रेडिट लेजर में ले आते हैं. कैन यू यूज दैट आईटीसी फॉर पेमेंट ऑफ योर आउटपुट एट 5%, which is for the next year? लेट्स से मई जून जुलाई, आपने अप्रैल में पूरे साल का रिवर्क करके आपने ये पाया कि आई हैव 2 लाख ऑफ आईटीसी विच इज ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द ईयरली फॉर्मूला, इट इज टू माय क्रेडिट. सर, माय हम्बल ओपिनियन इज yes, you will take that particular ITC, use that ITC for the payment of your output services after April. And that is not a barred ITC, because the condition says you cannot avail ITC against the exempted supply. But if the ITC pertains to an eligible ITC, that ITC will be used for payment of the taxes. And same will be the fate. I have accumulated ITC as on 22nd September. Should I shelve it out? Can I pay 5% out of it? Yes, sir, you can pay 5% out of it. You don't need to write off unless there is a specific condition from the government, and this will come in soon into the FAQ. FAQ has one question: will my ITC be required to be reversed, which is accumulated on 22nd? The FAQ says no, you will not be required to reverse your ITC, but you will have to see that you are using that ITC for your eligible output supplies. So friends, these supplies where ITC is restricted for availment still qualify as a eligible output where they can be used. 5 questions I've selected from all the questions which are provided by the government. The first question: what would be the GST rate applicable if I have received advance for supply of goods, services, or both, but supply has not been completed or invoice is not issued? I have already answered. The old rate is applicable if you have issued the invoice. If you have not issued the supplies in continuation, you have not received the payment, new rate will apply. What will happen to ITC for purchases made before the change in GST rate come into effect? Will I get ITC at reduced rate? Your already received ITC will not be impacted. आपने जो भी पीछे आईटीसी लिया था वो हायर रेट पे था, आपको वो आईटीसी पूरा मिलेगा in your new regime. You are not required to reduce it in any manner. My outward supply is exempt under the new rate schedule, but I have ITC. This is very important question. In my ledger, will I need to reverse ITC? The ITC can be utilized to discharge outward liability of supplies made till 21st September 20. However, for supplies made on or after 22nd September, when the rate change is effected, ITC will have to be reversed as per the provisions of CGST Act 2017. So while it speaks about CGST 2017 reversal, it does not speak about the reversal in terms of or lapsing of the entire ITC. And also it does not speak about the utilization of ITC. So this FAQ, it is very, very categorical that for supplies made after 22nd, if there is a prorated ITC, reverse. I am also saying the same thing. But in terms of lapsing of ITC, I have already shared my opinion on that. I have stock on the date when rate change can come into effect. Should I apply the revised rate? Yes. Any supply made after the rate change of any goods which is there in your stock, the new rate will be applicable. What will be the rate which will be on the admission of sporting events other than IPL? In those particular cases, if the ticket price is not more than 500, 500 रुपए तक की ticket है, then there is a exemption. Otherwise, there will be a 18% tax rate on this. So friends, these were a couple of things which we discussed, which we have to keep in mind. Now, I would require or I would request everyone to participate, and we are opening up the house for everyone for questions. Please, sir. You can unmute yourself. I'm putting stop to the recording. Thank you.